Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be travelling. It's going to be a curious few months coming up. Well, a curious month of May and a curious month of June. Because unlike historically the way things have played out, I have decided by proactively raising my hand and saying I will not be going to WWDC this year, to not go to San Francisco this year. Which is a very good thing in terms of my garden, because it's a period of time where I really do need to be doing things in the garden and maintaining the garden in a very proactive way. In terms of my culinary exposure, not particularly productive. I miss out on a few evenings at some nice restaurants in San Francisco. But actually, I'm interested this year just to watch WWDC like a regular punter away from the nonsense, to have an opportunity to actually see the various talks that I want to see. One of the greatest problems with WWDC is getting into specific talks. And it's always very difficult to actually find the talks that you want in the timeframes that you want, because there are always things that contrast with one another. This is just standard conference nonsense, but at WWDC it feels particularly frustrating. In addition to this, my wife and I are going away prior to WWDC for a bit of time. We're having people come by the house, we're having people look after the various components of the house, so, it's not like no one's going to be here. In fact, it's actually going to be very interesting relying on others to look after some components of the house, but that's another short funk. In doing this, I find myself in a travelling mode which dates back probably more than 20 years now. As a child, I travelled typically with my parents, but I occasionally travelled alone. And certainly through my late teens and early 20s, I started travelling by myself quite extensively. Travelling internationally, just doing a bunch of stuff that became almost instinctive associated with the way that I travel. I've tried in recent years to break up some of these habits, in particular, just the general anxiety that I find associated with flying. It's not all irrational. I was in a plane that was hit by lightning once that fell pretty well out of the sky. Well, fell more than 1,000 feet. People stopped screaming, basically, after the first 3 seconds. And also I've known people that have died in plane crashes, which is always a good start. Not one person, but actually 2 people. A stepmother of a former girlfriend back, I don't know, when I was 19, 20 perhaps. And also an investor in a company in 2000. Interestingly enough, somewhat curiously, I collapsed on the street, actually, on the evening that she died. Small coincidence, but still. So I have known people that have died in plane crashes, and I do try to meter the sense of flying with the view that I always enjoy getting to places, and when I arrive there, I always feel that my fear of flying is irrational. So I'm going to try and calm that. I always pack light, and I always send parcels back to myself, and this is going to be something that I maintain. Carrying around a lot of luggage, just lugging around a lot of stuff, particularly dirty washing, just strikes me as really, really stupid and really inefficient. And the mail services of the places that I travel to are usually relatively good, and I can wrap things up in small parcels that I send back to myself to avoid that horrible sense of flying out of a place with a really heavy suitcase that is overpacked. I keep my suitcase small. I maintain a couple of suitcases. I maintain an official suitcase and a backpack, which is usually, has a variety of things. I'm going to be taking my work laptop and work cell phone. There's potential that work could contact me while I'm away, but I'm going to try and minimize that. And as I've done historically, the work laptop then becomes my primary laptop for the trip, occasionally used to transfer holiday photos, this kind of stuff. I'm debating taking my specific video camera, and it's actually a rather interesting choice because having purchased a video camera in order to start this vlogging thing, I've not been particularly pleased with the quality of the video, but it does fit a video camera form versus the iPhone, which never really works properly. One of the things that I've noticed planning this trip is I'm meeting a lot of people for the first time. I'm going out of my way to find people that have been listeners and participants in various podcasts, and I'm also looking at the genetic family folk that I've come in contact with, but also who have existing living relations to confirm the genetic interaction. In this light, this trip is going to be probably more people-heavy than most trips. I reflect back on my time going back to Australia after 10 years away. That was an extremely people-heavy trip. I made decisions through that trip to try to minimize this practice going forward, but the current trip that we're planning, it's going to happen anyway. So I think it's just going to be a function of being in certain places and wanting to meet people for the first time. We do have a few days off in various places. We do have days that are dedicated to shopping. I'm actually rather interested in the shopping component because typically what I've done historically but moved away from it is purchased magazines and things of this nature, which typically are heavy and also are relatively easily accessible in the US through various means. In this light, this trip I'm going to look for small but dedicated purchases, some of which I'll take back with me because of the implicit value, and some of which I'll probably send back to myself because sometimes it's just easier to send stuff back to you. And in this light, I think the trip is going to be probably one of my more spending minimal trips. The cost of going to this place, the airline tickets, all this kind of stuff, it's something. But when you go to a new location, or as we're going in this trip, when you go to a series of new locations, you always have the mindset that the experience is probably better than what you take away from. Sometimes these items are useful to bring back memories and these kind of things, but I feel that I'm extraordinarily object heavy at this point in my life. I feel that I have too many books, too many magazines, too many general things, and most of these things are given to charity on an annual basis, and ultimately I don't think these things actually represent me in any way, shape or form. In this regard, I think this trip is going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of people and fundamentally changing some ideas through it. Or so I hope. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.